Chapter 3 of Seven Wives and Seven Prisons, or Experiences in the Life of a Matrimonial Maniac, a True Story. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Seven Wives and Seven Prisons, or Experiences in the Life of a Matrimonial Maniac, a True Story, by L.A. Abbott. Chapter 3 The Scheimer Sensation. The Scheimer Family. In Love with Sarah. Attempt to Elope. How it was Prevented. The Second Attempt. A Midnight Expedition. The Alarm. A Frightful Beating. Escape. Flogging the Devil out of Sarah. Winter in New Hampshire. Return to New Jersey. Boston Yankee. Plans to secure Sarah. I went at once to the prisoner's home, where I was kindly received, and I stayed there 2 days. The superintendent then paid my passage to Pittsfield, where I wished to go and meet my son. From Pittsfield I went to Albany, then New York, and from there to Newtown, New Jersey. Here I went into practice, meeting with almost immediate success, and stayed there for 2 months. It was my habit to go from town to town, to attend to cases of a certain class, and to sell my vegetable preparations. And from Newton I went to Belvidere, stopping at intermediate towns on the way, and from Belvidere I went to Harmony, a short distance below, to attend a case of white swelling which I cured. Now, just across the Delaware River, 9 miles from Easton, Pennsylvania, lived a wealthy Dutch farmer named Scheimer, who heard of the cure I had effected in Harmony, and as he had a son, 16 years of age, afflicted in the same way, he sent for me to come and see him. I crossed the river, saw the boy, and at Scheimer's request took up my residence with him to attend to the case. He was to give me, with my board, $500 if I cured the boy, but though the boy recovered under my treatment, I never received my fee for reasons which will appear anon. I secured some other practice in the neighborhood, and frequently visited Easton, Belvidere, Harmony, Oxford, and other nearby places on either side of the river. The Scheimer family consisted of the old folks and 4 sons and 4 daughters, the children grown up, for my patient, 16 years old, was the youngest. The youngest daughter, Sarah, 18 years old, was an accomplished and beautiful girl. Now, it would seem as if with my sad experience I ought, by this time, to have turned my back on women forever. But I think I was a monomaniac on the subject of matrimony. My first wife had so misused me that it was always in my mind that some reparation was due me, and that I was fairly entitled to a good helpmate. The ill success of my efforts hitherto to secure one, and my consequent sufferings, were all lost upon me. Experience, bitter experience, had taught me nothing. I had not been in the Scheimer family 3 months before I fell in love with the daughter Sarah, and she returned my passion. She promised to marry me, but said there was no use in saying anything to her parents about it. They would never consent on account of the disparity in our ages, for I was then 40 years old, but she would marry me nevertheless if we had to run away together. Meanwhile, the old folks had seen enough of our intimacy to suspect that it might lead to something yet closer, and one day Mr. Scheimer invited me to leave his house and not to return. I asked for one last interview with Sarah, which was accorded, and we then arranged a plan by which she should meet me the next afternoon at 4 o'clock at the Jersey ferry, a mile below the house, when we proposed to quietly cross over to Belvidere and get married. I then took leave of her and the family and went away. The next day, at the appointed time, I was at the ferry. Sarah, as I learned afterwards, left the house at a much earlier hour, to take a walk, and while she was, foolishly I think, making a circuitous route to reach the ferry, her father, who suspected that she intended to run away, went to the ferryman and told him his suspicions, directing him, if Sarah came there, by no means to permit her to cross the river. Consequently, when Sarah met me at the ferryman flatly refused to let either of us go over. He knew all about it, he said, and it was no go. I had $200 in my pocket, and I offered him any reasonable sum if he would only let us cross. But no, he knew the Scheimers better than he knew me, and their goodwill was worth more than mine. Here was a block to the game indeed. I had sent my baggage forward in the morning to Belvidere. Sarah had nothing but the clothes she wore, for she was so carefully watched, that she could carry or send nothing away, but she was ready to go if the obstinate ferryman had not prevented us. While we were pressing the ferryman to favor us, down came one of Sarah's brothers with a dozen neighbors, and told her she must return home, or he would carry her back by force. I interfered and said she should not go, whereupon one fellow took hold of me, and I promptly knocked him down, and notified the crowd that the first who laid hands on me, or who attempted to take her home violently, would get a dose from my pistol, which I then exhibited. "Sarah must go willingly, or not at all," said I. The production of my pistol, the only weapon in the crowd, brought about a new state of affairs, and the brother and others tried persuasion, but Sarah stoutly insisted that she would not return. "Now hold on, boys," said I am going to say something to her." I then took her aside and told her that there was no use in trying to run away then, that she had better go home quietly and tell the folks that she was sorry for what she had done, that she had broken off with me, and would have nothing more to do with me, that I would surely see her tomorrow, and then we could make a new plan. So she announced her willingness to go quietly home with her brother, and she did so. I went to a public house half a mile below the ferry. That night the gang came down to this house with the intention of driving me away from the place, or possibly of doing something worse, but while they were howling outside, the landlord sent me to my room, and then went out and told the crowd I had gone away. The next morning I boldly walked up to the Scheimers' house to get a few books and other things I had left there, and I saw Sarah. I told her to be ready on the following Thursday night, and I would have a ladder against her window for her to escape by. She promised to be ready. Meantime, though I had been in the house but a few minutes, some one who had seen me go in gathered the crowd of the day before, and the first thing I knew the house was besieged. Mrs. Scheimer had gone upstairs for my things. I went out and faced the little mob. I was told to leave the place or they would kill me. One of Sarah's brothers ran into the house, brought out a musket, and aimed it at me, but it missed fire. I drew my pistol, the crowd keeping well away then, and told him that if he did not instantly bring that musket to me I would shoot him. He brought it, and I threw it over the fence, Sarah crying out from the window, "Good! Good!" The mob then turned and abused and blackguarded her. Then the old lady came out, bringing a carpet bag containing my books and things, asking me to see if it was all right. I had no disposition to stop and examine just then. I told the mob I had no other business there, that I was going away, and to my surprise, I confess, I was permitted to leave the place unmolested. It is quite certain the ferryman made no objection to my crossing, and I went to Belvidere, where I remained quietly till the appointed Thursday night, when I started with a trusty man for Scheimers. We timed our journey so as to arrive there at 1 o'clock in the morning. Ever since her attempt to elope, Sarah had been watched night and day, and to prevent her abduction by me, Mr. Scheimer had 2 or 3 men in the house to stand guard at night. Sarah was locked in her room, which is precisely what we had provided for no one in the house supposed that she could escape by the window. There was a big dog on the premises, but he and I were old friends, and he seemed very glad to see me when I came on the ground on this eventful night. Sarah was watching, and when I made the signal she opened the window and threw out her ready-prepared bundle. Then my man and I set the ladder, and she came safely to the ground. A moment more and we would have stolen away, when, as ill luck would have it, the ladder fell with a great crash, and the infernal dog, that a moment before seemed almost in our confidence, set up a howl, and then barked loud enough to wake the dead. Forthwith issued from the house old Scheimer, all 2 of his sons, and his hired guard, a half-dozen in all. There was a time then. The girl was instantly seized and taken into the house. Then all hands fell upon us 2, and though I and my man fought our best, they managed to pound us nearly to death. The dog, too, in revenge, no doubt, for the scare the latter had given him, or perhaps to show his loyalty to his master, assisted in routing us, and put in a bite where he could.